All right, Roudy, I am so excited to have you on our show. Welcome to Unlock the Sugar Shackles.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here because you have studied and formed a business around one of my new most favorite topics that I'm so excited to learn about, which is light. And why light? What should we know? Why should we care about light?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get asked this question oftentimes. And, throughout years of experimenting and doing different things to improve my health, I discovered that light is actually one of the most powerful forces that fuel our life. And it's actually a fundamental missing link in our current self-care routine that I see all the time helping people to actually unlock their quantum health. Now, the good thing is that most people nowadays are being oriented to practicing a more holistic approach to wellness through biohacking, meditation, healthy diet, exercise. And this is all great. However, I always find that light is actually a fundamental thing that can complete that equation, amplifying and strengthening any of the health protocols that people are actually implementing in their life. Okay, so always refer to light as like really the most powerful force that shapes and molds every aspect of our life in biology. And when I share about this, people get skeptical and they often ask this question like, how could a superficial thing that simply makes vision possible shape and mold our life? And I think that's a great question because on my journey also, I asked myself this question. And one of the simplest ways we could actually talk about this is referring back to the genius Albert Einstein, who taught us about the law of relativity, E equal mc squared. And E being light, m is mass, and c is velocity. And this equation literally means that light and matter are exactly the same thing. And when light slows down, it actually creates things of mass. And this also means that everything around you at this moment, including you and the planet, actually comes from light slowing down and is profoundly influenced by light.
My mind
Now,
is
the cool
just blown.
so our eyes actually they have what it's called the vitreous EDI, which is composed of water, collagen, and acid. And this EDI is a very unique substance that is not found elsewhere but in our eyes only. And the job of this vitreous EDI is actually to slow light down before entering the retina. Okay, so let's take a step back and combine this with the equation that I just shared. To be honest with you, I ponder the beauty of this equation every morning, and this is what I invite people to do, like really like slowing down, taking a breath, and pondering the beauty of this equation. Because when light is hitting the cornea in our eyes, it's slowing down, and through it, we are actually being recreated with new life every single day. So our brain cells, tissues, heart, and every organ in our body is being regenerated. And it's now very well known that light actually creates reality. The type of light that we expose ourselves to is creating our own reality because it's reprogramming all of the neurotransmitters and hormones that enable us to make a model of ourselves in space and time and perceive ourselves, perceive others, and our environment. So we can now start imagining how junk artificial light is actually decreasing the quality of our perception and our reality overall. And this is not philosophy, this is actually quantum biophysics. And this also, we could tie this with a very cool discovery back in the, I think, 1930s from a biochemist. His name is Albert St. Georgi. he won the Nobel Prize showing how different frequencies of light interact with our enzymes and hormones, and they make them 500% more effective and more efficient at absorbing food. So what I always tell people, like 500%, this is like 5 times more, being more effective and more efficient at absorbing the nutrients from our food. So like, what would we do if we had 5 times the amount of the energy that we currently have? Also, what would we do if we started absorbing food in a much more efficient way, so much so that we start needing much less food, right? And much less supplements in our life. And also, what would be the implication of being exposed to junk artificial light all day, right? That is very different from the balanced and full spectrum sunlight that we have evolved to get. So literally, light is a double-edged sword. Okay, it has 2 sides. It's very dualistic. At the right type of it, at the right time of the day, can create wonders and healings. And those are just few examples of how light interacts with us. However, the wrong type of light at the wrong time of the day can create depression, anxiety, overweight issues, even, affect the way our insulin is being secreted, our blood glucose level in the body, and so on. So with that being said, the problem is that today in our modern world, we are getting very little healthy light during the day, and we are being exposed and bombarded to junk artificial light day and night. And this is causing a lot of chronic issues, anxiety, depression, overweight issues. And I personally suffered from those effects for almost 25 years in my life.
Wow. Yeah. Do you want to take us through your story of how you got started in this? Because I don't think you just came into this by accident. I mean, what you're sharing is so profound, and it really makes you, it makes you think about something that we just take for granted. It's like, okay, it's light outside, I'll just turn on a light. You don't think twice about it, but it obviously has these profound effects on us. So can you take us through your story?
Yeah, definitely. And what you say is profoundly true, because we live in a society right now that we're really taking light for granted. And one of my missions is really to awaken people about the power of light. But as a kid, I didn't take light for granted. I had this deep intuition that light affects me profoundly. But I couldn't articulate this. And I was actually diagnosed as ADHD. And every time I was in the classroom, I suffered from debilitating headaches, agitation, and inability to focus. My inner kid knew what he wants. I wanted to escape the class, be outside. But my teachers and environment, labeled me as ADHD, which was something heavy to carry on. And then growing up, I actually turned into a night owl. And I used to stay up very late, feeling super wired and stimulated. And then waking up feeling really unfocused and lacking the energy to go through the day. And eventually, day after day, this pattern led me to deep depression, chronic fatigue, and extreme disorientation. And it was really sabotaging every aspect of my life. Even as a professional engineer, I couldn't focus on my work. My memory and cognition were extremely low. I mean, I remember that I could hardly read few pages from a book before I feel like extremely tired and exhausted. And even on an emotional level, I was like riding a roller coaster all the time, which really affected all of my relationships. So as you may imagine, I was desperately looking for a solution in order to feel better. And to be honest, I felt extremely tired and exhausted going from one doctor to another, and very overwhelmed with all the different health opinions about what I should be doing. On one side, we have conventional medicine, which wanted me to take prescription drugs. And thankfully, I had the awareness to refuse that. So I started this long journey with holistic medicine. And I started trying all these different diets, you name it, like every diet that you can think of, I've tried, and taking all these different herbs, supplements, and even trying so many different biohacks, meditation, and physical exercise techniques. And while all of these helped me build a great foundation, unfortunately, I was still stuck with the same cycle of feeling extremely wired at night and waking up feeling exhausted, fatigued, and depressed. Now, miraculously, one specific event changed all of this in my life. And it was a very unpredictable, yet very simple event. I actually went on a farm for 6 weeks and I was camping in my tent. And on this farm, I was exposed only to natural sunlight during the day and candle and firelight during the evening. Now, here's the thing, within a matter of 3 days, something miraculous happened. I started winding down in the evening, feeling mellow and relaxed just after the sunset, sleeping shortly after the sun sets, to then wake up before the sunrise for the first time in my life, feeling refreshed, energized, focused, and motivated. I mean, I spent all my day outside, farming, dancing, cooking, hiking, swimming in lakes, studying, deepening my relationship. For the first time in 25 years, I was actually feeling alive. I was feeling this tingling energy moving up and down my spine. It brought tears to my eyes because I realized that for most of my life, I was feeling numb. Like I wasn't feeling alive, right? I was just doing what everyone else is doing, right? But I wasn't connected to that aspect of myself. So I was in complete awe because I didn't change my diet, I didn't take supplements, and I was still meditating and exercising in the same way. But then the big aha was when I moved back from the farm to the city after 6 weeks. And what happened is that within a matter of few weeks, I actually fell back into my old terrible routine of staying up late and waking up feeling extremely depressed and fatigued. So at this point, I was really shocked. And I went to a meditation retreat for 10 days, sitting in silence. And the only question I had written wordlessly in my heart is like, what happened? Like, I really wanted to understand. And I had this impulse that was about my light environment. And my engineering mind at the time was like, what? Like light, how could that be possible? Light is like this superficial thing, as I mentioned. And I listened to my intuition. So I started on this 7-year journey of studying light, quantum biology, and circadian rhythm, and consulting the world's leading experts in this field. And what I learned is something extremely simple, which I knew as a kid. I learned that, we are light beings, and light profoundly affects us on every level. And the quality of light that we expose ourselves to will affect our sleep, our productivity, our moods. And when we are exposed to junk artificial lighting all the time, it's actually depleting, it's actually breaking our rhythms. It's really sabotaging our moods, our ability to be productive, and really destroying nature's gift to us, which is sleep, which is the time when we really reset and we spring back in the morning, coming back with this vigorous energy to do what we love to do.
Wow. That story is so profound. And you had such a drastic difference in your health outcomes when you were exposed to the wrong light versus the right light. I felt like and I shared this with you personally off air, that I consider myself very sensitive. I'm sensitive to foods and sounds and light. And so when I was little, just intuitively, I would always block light in my bedroom. So on my VCR, I would put like a VHS tape up and block the light coming out of it. there was a little light on my TV that was green and I blocked it with a sticker and drew over it in Sharpie. I would like take down the sides of my blinds because some light would come in. And I was always like this. And then when I found out what a sleep mask was, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the best thing that's ever been made, because I needed it. I have slept with a sleep mask every single day since college, since I was 18, and now I'm 36. So my half of my life. And I have just noticed that, I mean, I grew up in New York and I definitely struggled with seasonal affective disorder and just my mood. Now I'm in Florida, I'm in the sunshine state. And I don't think it's a coincidence that I am here, because I do feel so affected by light and the sun. And now learning all this stuff is sort of putting the pieces together. Like, yeah, I was, I was onto something, right? So can you talk about how light is helping us set the rhythm of this circadian rhythm and what even circadian rhythm is?
Yeah, that's it, definitely. So circadian actually comes from the Latin word circa and dia, which means approximately a day and 24 hours. And you're mentioning something about light and darkness, which are extremely important aspects that all of us on this planet had to go through in a particular day. See, like this rhythm, actually, the circadian rhythm exists in all plants, animals, and humans, because we all across evolution experienced an unescapable daily change in our environment. Simply, the day must become night, and the night turns into day again. And in order for all of us to adapt to this daily change, we have had to develop an internal mechanism or an internal clock that's actually that controls the timing of our daily functions, all of our daily functions, physiologically and mentally, to an optimal time of the day or the night during the 24-hour cycles. For example, like plants, they have these light sensors that enable them to anticipate the sun's position in the sky so that they can turn their leaves in the right direction throughout the day and harness the solar energy. And they also drop their leaves down at night when the sun is down. And this enables them to optimize energy intake and efficiency. Now, we think that this is true for plants and not true for us for some reason. But just like plants, we also have these photoreceptors in our eyes. We have many photoreceptors, but one of the most dominant one that signal to our clock is called melanopsin ganglion cells. And those cells are actually designed to register the sun's position in the sky. And they do this because they are most sensitive to the inclining blue and green light as the sun is rising. And they are much less sensitive to red light. So when the sun is out, those melanopsin are actually activated by the blue and green light frequencies, and they send a signal to the central clock in the brain, which we'll talk about a little bit more, that's actually daytime. Okay, and this signal is fundamentally important because it drives every neurotransmitter and hormone that our body need so that we can kickstart the day. And this leads us to start feeling alert, focused, and energized, and have enough energy and vigor to be able to focus on the morning tasks that we need to engage with. Now, on the opposite side of the coin, when the sun sets, there's a declining in the blue and green light frequencies, which is also registered by those photoreceptors in the eye. And this literally sends a signal to our nervous system that it's nighttime. And it affects every hormonal production and neurotransmitter that we need to turn on in order for us to start winding down, but not only winding down, feeling calm and relaxed and preparing our body to enter this very important stage called sleep. Okay, so technically we can think of this whole circadian clock as a 24-hour symphony, right? And just like in every musical symphony, in order for the whole orchestra with many musicians to produce harmonious music, they gotta be guided by a conductor that is reading those musical notes and instructing all of those musicians on what to do, so that they can communicate and work in harmony in order to produce something harmonious. And it's literally the same in our body. We have this conductor called the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus. And you could think that this conductor is reading the musical notes, but this time coming from frequencies of light, from sunlight. And it uses this light as information to inform all of the millions of cellular clocks in our body and all of our organs and glands on what to do. And this is literally how our body can communicate, coordinate, and know when to wake up in the morning, for instance, when to tackle big problems and be creative, when to eat and digest in the most efficient way, and when to go to sleep at night and get the most optimal sleep. All of these things are subconsciously regulated by our exposure to the light and dark cycles. Now, if we come back to this analogy of the conductor, what happens if this conductor in this symphony start reading the wrong musical notes? The music will sound awful, right? All of these musicians will not be able to communicate in harmony. It's gonna create so much dissonance. Now, imagine if this happens to our bodies. And it does. Yeah. Every single day. I mean, every single day in our modern life, we do not allow this conductor to read the proper signals of light, because we are drowning it with artificial light that is mainly blue light. And this confuses our brains and bodies into thinking that it's 12 noon summertime all year long, and that it's supposed to be doing one thing rather than the multitude of self-healing functions that nature has equipped us to do across a 24-hour cycle.
Wow. Can that keep us in like a sympathetic overdrive to not like allow our body to be in more of like a healing state?
Yeah, that's a great question, because light directly affects our nervous system and our endocrine system. And it does this through the hypothalamus, which actually control our nervous system. So this light activated information goes to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus is composed of two different parts, one that controls our sympathetic nervous system, ones that control our parasympathetic nervous system. And our autonomic nervous system is this beautiful technology that enables us to stay balanced and in homeostasis. And this balance is really dependent on the balance between those two subsystems, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system. So you can think of this autonomic nervous system as this fulcrum point, and on each side of the seesaw, there's the sympathetic, which is responsible for acceleration and action. On the other side of the seesaw, there is this parasympathetic that is responsible for rest, rejuvenation, and braking, right? And the ultimate balance and homeostasis is this point of equilibrium between the two throughout the whole day, and between day and night, even between seasons, because different seasons stimulate our nervous system in different ways. But coming back to light, yes, different, like blue light, for instance, in the morning, it activates our sympathetic nervous system, and it turns on our pituitary gland so that we can start producing progesterone. And this progesterone turns into this steroid hormones, cortisol, and the sex hormones. Now, the problem is that in nature, this blue light will be balanced with the orange, red, and infrared light, which also will shut down this hormonal production as needed and create this balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic state. Now, what is happening with most people is they are exposed to this blue light frequency day and night, which is continuously stimulating this sympathetic arousal. And there is nothing to balance this out, on the other hand, and shut down the hormonal production as needed so that we can enter into a parasympathetic state.
Wow. Yeah. So that continuous increasing of stress, how from light, that can start to throw off our blood sugar, right? Does that have impacts?
Yes, definitely. So basically, like, let's refer to a study by a very interesting German scientist. His name is Fritz Holrich, and back in the 1970s, he ran different studies showing how the stress hormone cortisol and ACTH were significantly high when sitting under artificial lights that are high in the blue light frequencies that are not in balance with the other frequencies, right? And when cortisol and ACTH are significantly high, they actually act also as growth inhibitors. So that's another topic that we can address. But cortisol at night, for instance, should be around 1 microgram per deciliter. When I first did my test, it was 10 microgram per deciliter at night.
No wonder why you couldn't sleep.
Definitely, which is scarily very common. Like 95% of our clients who take the test, they show their cortisol peaking at night. And I bet that for many of the listeners right now who are not taking care of their light environment and who are exposed to a lot of artificial lighting at night, if they take that cortisol test, they're going to be surprised that their cortisol is actually peaking at night rather than peaking during the day. And when this happens, you sleep terribly, right? And some people actually think that they're sleeping well. Subconsciously, they are sleeping terribly. Why? Because sleep has this conscious and subconscious aspects to it. And at a subconscious level, our cells are actually performing autophagy and apoptosis, which means like we are actually healing, repairing, and rejuvenating when we are sleeping, right? And this happens at a subconscious cellular level that we might not be conscious of. And one that sleeps in a certain way might not be consciously aware of what it would feel like to sleep in a much higher level of sleep, right? So people think, oh, well, I sleep well. But then when they discover what sleeping well means, right, they realize that, oh, well, I wasn't actually sleeping well. And when this happens, it actually also takes a toll on their morning cortisol, right? Because this morning cortisol should be around 16 microgram per deciliter. And it's very important because it's this healthy pulse of cortisol that actually increases your blood pressure in a healthy way. It helps your heart to pick up a few more beats per minute. Your muscles start tensing and you start feeling alert, focused, and ready for the day. And when your cortisol is low, when you wake up, this is when you wake up feeling extremely tired, very moody, not ready for the day, and you start feeling sluggish, struggling with momentum, and needing coffee and stimulants to get going. So this whole equation is if we look at it, it's almost reversed in our society because we're secreting cortisol at the wrong time of the day at night when we are supposed to secrete it in a healthy way during the day when we wake up. Now, how does this affect blood sugar level? Well, in immense ways, because when you are continuously secreting cortisol, we all know that cortisol's role in nature is to provide glucose to prepare the body for the fight and flight mechanism, right? Because when you have this intense spike in cortisol, back in the days, it would have happened when you see a tiger and you need to flee for your life. Today, it happens because of so many different things. And one of those things could be our junk artificial light exposure. And
or our phones, right? Or our computer screens.
Definitely, from LED bulbs. Like people only think that it's screens and phones, but even if the sun sets, you go to the mall, or you turn on the artificial light in your kitchen, this is junk artificial light.
Yeah.
And because the role of cortisol is to provide glucose for the body, they start increasing our blood glucose level, which start leading to carbs and sugar craving. And I know that you're an expert on the topic of blood glucose, and I believe that you agree that when our blood glucose level is chaotic, it leads to a chaotic mind and chaotic emotions. And when our emotions are all over the place, we are much more likely to make bad decisions, whether in our work, in our relationships, even in our relationship to food. We start picking, um, sugary, carby, junky foods rather than whole, organic and nutritious food, right?
Yeah.
So
Wow, I mean, it's really profound how the junk light leads us to the junk food, right? Because it's our body, if you're not feeling in sync, if everything's sort of off, the conductor is giving you all the wrong notes, and your body thinks it's 12 noon and it's 9 p.m. and you've had this junk light all day for, months, weeks, years on end. It's no wonder that we're just trying to feel okay, and why we might find ourselves in the kitchen staring into the cabinets being like, what can I have that might make me feel better? Like, we don't feel well. And I think that when you were saying how it's like we don't necessarily know what a good night's sleep feels like, and I can sort of relate that to a lot of people don't know what it really feels like to feel great. I feel like people have this level of normal, it's their normal and they feel okay, but they don't know how good they can feel. And so I think that a lot of us in this world of biohacking, holistic nutrition, we know what it feels like to feel amazing. And that's why we start designing our life so we can keep holding on to that. And I love how light fits into this equation. So we talked about how artificial light can increase cortisol, therefore imbalance our blood sugar and our hormones and lead to insulin resistance. So what are some other negative effects of artificial light? I'm sure there are more. So what else can you tell us?
well, yeah, there's a lot. And I'd like to talk particularly about insulin resistance and artificial light, but something came to my mind and I thought that you would appreciate this. I'm not sure if I shared with you before, but one of our clients, Dr. Sachin Patel, he actually shared with me this very interesting story. He uses a blood sugar monitor to track his glucose during the day. And after he started wearing the VivaRays glasses consistently and monitoring his light exposures through the eyes, he noticed that his blood sugar level after every meal was much more stable compared to before. But here's the thing, he didn't change his diet. The chronic exposure to the imbalanced blue light was literally causing his blood sugar level to spike and crash. And when he controlled the light that was entering his eyes, he was able to control his blood sugar level at a much deeper level without changing his diet. And of course, diet will play a deep role in blood sugar level. I'm not saying that don't look at your diet and only control your light, but it's really about combining those two very important aspects and have much better control in your life so that you are feeling at your optimal, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to insulin resistance, when the body is in this continuous state of secreting cortisol and obtaining glucose, our blood sugar level will stay very high, which, as you may know, it's very neurotoxic, right? It creates neurotoxicity and it could damage the brain cells and tissues. But what's also like remarkable is actually cortisol, when it's high, it will reduces the effect of insulin, right? So not only our blood sugar level will be high, but insulin also will be unable to perform its regular function of maintaining this normal glucose levels. So the pancreas actually will continue to release insulin, and the cells become insulin resistant, and this puts the pancreas under a very stressful situation, right? Because cortisol is high and we're becoming insulin resistant. Our blood sugar level is high, and no matter how much the pancreas is secreting insulin, the cells are not responding to that. And this happens all the time when we are sitting under junk artificial lighting all the time, that is messing up with the rhythm of our cortisol.
Yeah, I think this is such a great bit of information to learn for people who are listening to the show who are, doing everything right? Like, I'm eating super low carb diet. That why am I still struggling with my blood sugar? Why is my morning blood sugar still so high? And this is a huge area of potential answers, answers and improvement in not only those blood sugar level, but also vitality, hormone balance. I mean, every single aspect of your health, like you said in the beginning, because it affects, we are light, but the light affects every single cell in our body, just like blood sugar does. So I think that it's such great information. So this obviously can lead to weight gain as well for a lot of people, because high blood sugar levels, insulin resistance can often lead to weight gain. And I know you mentioned that earlier. So is there anything else that you wanted to tell us about the weight gain issues and light?
Yeah, definitely. So like this light and dark cycle, again, as simple as it may seem, it's driving every rhythm of all the hormones and neurotransmitters in our body. They all rise and fall at different times of the day, depending on the light that we are being exposed to. So, artificial blue light that is not balanced. And again, I don't want people to think that blue light is bad, because we're continuously saying blue light, blue light, blue light. But artificial blue light is much different than the blue light that we get from sunlight. Okay, blue light is not bad. It's extremely important during the day because it resets our circadian rhythm, improves our mood. But it's always balanced with all of the other colors when it comes from sunlight. Whereas artificial light or artificial junk blue light peaks in the blue and is very deficient in all the other colors. So this leads people actually to become leptin resistant. And leptin is this hormone that is stored in our fat tissues that is released after every meal to signal to our brain that we have enough energy so that we can stop eating, right? It's that this hormone that is continuously sensing the levels of our energy. Now, here's the remarkable thing about leptin. When the sun sets at night and our eyes stop seeing blue and green light, in other words, when we are exposed to the darkness that we need at night, this increases our melatonin, the sleep hormone, which maybe we can talk a little bit more about, because it's not only a sleep hormone, it does so many different things.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to think melatonin is only a sleep hormone, but leptin is actually associated with this cycle, which is related to light, because when melatonin rises in response to darkness, leptin travels into the hypothalamus in the brain, and it actually upregulates our thyroid hormone. And what this means is that it will increase our metabolism and growth hormone production. And in other words, it means that we stop burning fat at night while sleeping, and most efficiently. It's one of the most efficient mechanisms for humans to burn fat at night, as long as they're not making fat, as long as they haven't ate a lot of food before they sleep, because the body cannot make fat and break fat at the same time. So that's the thing. When we are exposed to a lot of junk artificial lighting, this blue light actually is known to increase our reactive oxidative species, which is inflammation, which again is not necessarily something bad, because exercise increases your reactive oxidative species. But when it happens in a moderate way, actually trigger the production of antioxidants, and it triggers your immune system to work in a better way. But where's the problem? The problem is that when we expose ourselves to this blue chronically, it's as if we're exercising 24-hour, right? And we all know the damage that could happen if we do this. It will increase those ROS abnormally, and it causes deep oxidative stress, which will start damaging the cells and the DNA, and it will lead to aging, inflammation, and chronic diseases. But here's the thing: what it also does is when this inflammation increases, it blocks the leptin signal to the brain that we're feeling full. So no matter how much leptin you have in the body, the signal to the brain is being blocked by this inflammation. And when the brain isn't correctly receiving the signal from leptin, you will not only lose, you will not only eat more because you're not receiving that signal that you're feeling full, but your brain also will decrease your energy levels in order to conserve energy, right? And as a result, you will become super lazy to exercise. So on one side, you're eating more. On the other side, your brain is, sending the signal to conserve energy, so you don't have the energy to exercise. And the third part is melatonin is suppressed. Leptin is not traveling to the brain, which means your metabolism at night will decrease, and you'll not be able to burn fat at night as you are designed to do so. So if you combine those three things together, it's just the perfect recipe for weight gain and obesity.
Yeah. And this is just such fascinating information. And I was struck by when you said that the body is designed to burn fat at night. And I work with a lot of people with something called reactive hypoglycemia or hypoglycemia. And that's where they can't keep their blood sugar up, and the blood sugar just keeps crashing. And what usually happens is that they need to eat right before bed. And a lot of people with reactive hypoglycemia need to eat at night because their blood sugar keeps crashing. And what we know about this is that there's a real big difficulty tapping into burnt stored body fat. And what's hard to do is get people to stop eating, because if they don't eat, they won't be able to keep their blood sugar up. So even though not eating would help, they're almost too sick for that. So I think that a great bridge is to get them in the right light and block the light when appropriate, because that is one of the biggest things that it's hard to bridge the treatment for this disorder, because you need to not eat as often, but you have to eat often. So this is just another amazing tool for people struggling. And I can't wait to start implementing this with my clients and students. Yeah.
Definitely. This is going to be a tremendously important tool, because the light signal will inform their suprachiasmatic nucleus, that's nighttime. And even though they have eaten something, which will signal to their organs clock, if they start managing eating what they need to eat before bed at the same time every day, and they control their light environment in a consistent way, so much so that the light and dark cycles are being registered in their bodies, then it's gonna really ease, and increase their ability to sleep well and sleep deeply. And again, eating something that will not increase their blood glucose level at night, like avoiding carbs and sugar, and eating something fatty that will not immensely increase their blood sugar level, will also be great, because it wouldn't suppress, the delta waves and their ability to produce growth hormones at night. Because when your blood sugar level is extremely high, it's going to sabotage the delta brainwave frequencies and your ability to secrete growth hormones at night. So again, tying the food with the light and enabling their bodies to understand the time of the day through light signaling will definitely work wonders.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait to share this. This is such great information. And you talked about earlier that all our cells have clocks. So can you talk about this a little bit more? Because we know that the time of the day that you eat is really important. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
So yeah, we talked that we have this central clock in the brain, which signal to the millions of cellular clocks in our bodies about the time of the day. Now, we also know that the timing of our food is another way that actually resets the organs clock in our body, and particularly the liver and the gut. Okay. And just like the first light entering our eyes in the morning will reset our suprachiasmatic nucleus, which will communicate to all of the different other clocks. Also, the first bite of the day will inform our organ clocks that the day is starting. Okay. So, what can we do with this information? We know that every cell in the gut has a clock in front of it. And this clock is actually controlling the juices that our gut produce to digest food and our ability to absorb nutrients. And it even nudges the microbiomes in our gut. Okay. And even our gut mobility is circadian, which means that it turns out that our gut mobility and all of these different aspects are much more efficient when the sun is out and when they are performed during the day. And we are at least 50 to 100% less efficient if we perform those same tasks at night, which means that this same meal that we might eat in the morning is going to take at least half to triple amount the time and the energy to digest it by our bodies. So with that being said, it's great to start timing our lighting with the timing of our food. And the more consistent we are with these things, the more they will work wonders, right? So depending on someone's lifestyle, they could decide to set a meeting with themselves to have their breakfast at almost a similar time every day. And this will help all these clocks in the gut to predict the timing of the food that will enter the body. So why is that important? Because this prediction will enable our gut to prepare for this food to optimally digest it with ease and with much less energy and effort. But not only this, when we are consistent with the timing of our clock, then our gut start using the rest of the time for repair and rejuvenation. And like when our gut is able to do that and it's not being interrupted by all these food signals all the time from the pattern of like eating snacks and eating at random time, the gut will be able to perform at a much higher level. And this organ is requiring repair, requiring maintenance, just like you would think that in a house the sewage system will start leaking and it needs this maintenance and repair. Also the gut lining tissues, they need this aspect to be able to repair and maintain themselves, and this happen in a circadian way, right? And the more we are consistent with our first bite and our last bite as well, because that's when you eat your last bite, you have a window of 2-3 hours of making fat and digesting that food, and if you're consistent enough, your signal will receive this message that the kitchen is closed. And your organs are so thankful for this because they actually make use of this time to start breaking fat, which is the process of burning fat at night, and also rejuvenating, repairing, and doing all the maintenance background work that our body needs to do on a daily basis so that we could truly maintain optimal health. We know, like, if we enter the kitchen right now and we're cooking, we're making a mess, and there's this all these fumy oils around. We turn on the exhaust, and there's a process afterwards of cleaning the kitchen and bringing it back to a state of how it was before. And this actually happens every night when we sleep, when we get the right signals from the light and from our food intake. So how can we translate this? I would say, like, timing your first meal and your last meal consistently at a consistent time. Like plus minus 30-60 minutes is okay, but the more accurate you are, the better. And keeping like a window of at least 3 to 4 hours without eating before sleep.
Perfect. And I actually have started using this app called Circadian, and
Yes.
it helps me. There's a reminder that goes off. You can have it set reminders to your phone to see the sunrise, but it'll say, enjoy your breakfast or enjoy your lunch, enjoy your dinner. And today I started eating breakfast and I got a notification on my phone. It said, enjoy your breakfast. I was like, yes, I was right on time. So I'm going to be more diligent with that and make sure that, it's just another area to tighten up to get all these incredible amounts of benefits. And, I'm working on my gut, and, I've had a lifetime of antibiotic use. So it's not going to be, an overnight process, even though I live a very healthy life. But I feel like there's something that I'm not doing. You can take all the supplements in the world and eat these clean foods, but until your lifestyle really syncs up and getting the body working for you, working with the body, we always want to work with nature as opposed to try to reinvent it. We find that I think this podcast is just evidence that the closer we get to nature and being in nature's cycles and syncing those together, the more ideal health we will have. So, I could talk to you forever and listen forever, but I really want to find out. I won a pair of VivaRays in a giveaway, and I have been obsessed with these glasses, but also it has drastically made me take light more seriously. And I love the idea of having something physical to put on that can help remind you to take this seriously, or to just remember to not, just, I'm just going to go throw on Netflix and scroll on my phone for hours. It's like, I need to be mindful of my light. That means, okay, sleep is coming. So it's a really great external cue to kind of dial things in. So how did you start your company, VivaRays?
Yeah. So when I was learning about all of this, and when I was back in the city and studying all of these things, I was deeply wondering whether I could have the freedom to live in a modern world while staying in alignment and accessing this flow of beautiful energy that I felt on the phone. So this question led me to a deep research where I discovered about blue blocking glasses. And I instantly felt super happy. I did my research online, and I found those clear lenses, clear blue light blocking glasses. And after trying them for a while, I noticed that I didn't experience any benefits, and I was feeling so disappointed. I'm like, how come? Like, I'm blocking the blue light. And what I actually learned is that those clear lenses were a marketing gimmick, because they block blue light up to 420 nanometer in wavelength. And if you look at the emission of LED bulbs and screens, they actually do not emit any blue light below 420. And they start their emission at 430 and they peak at 455. So
these can go in the garbage, huh? These give me a headache anyway. So
definitely. They could go in the garbage, because it's like trying to rinse your quinoa in a pasta strainer. The quinoa will end up passing through the hole because it's the wrong filter. And what's remarkable about those, that if you go get them from the optometrist office, which are often misinformed about this topic, they could be super expensive. Like you could be paying $300. On the other side, there's all this marketing gimmick and like this cheap glasses that you could get from Amazon. But long story short, they don't work. And when I realized this, I did further research and I found those orange tinted glasses. And I was so happy. I'm like, yes, I got it. And because when I was using them, I started feeling some benefits. And I start feeling like that I'm getting tired at night and things like this. But something was still wrong. And what I was actually feeling is like I was feeling tired during the day when I was supposed to still be feeling energized. And at this point, I was really feeling frustrated because I thought that like eliminating the evil blue light from my life will actually be the answer for all of my problems. But unfortunately, it wasn't. And what I quickly realized as I was studying more that, again, blue light is really important. It's one of the most important frequencies that we can get during the day because it resets our circadian rhythm and improves our mood and so on. But the realization was, oh, okay, blue light from the sun is always balanced. Whereas the blue light that we get from artificial sources, which we call junk light, is not balanced and is peaking in this 455 nanometer wavelength, which this specific wavelength has been shown to be very degenerative to the cells when you are exposing yourself to it in isolation from the other frequencies of colors in the spectrum. And this also explains why people feel agitation, headaches, eye strain, eye fatigue when they are exposing themselves to this type of light. So what I learned is that blue light was not good or bad. It was relative, and its effect on us was really dependent on the time of the day we expose ourselves to it and whether or not it was balanced and proportionate with the other colors. And as I kept consulting many of the world's leading experts in circadian rhythm, I had conversation with them about how can we like which product can I get that could resolve that problem. And doing my research, I saw that 95% of the companies were offering a one-for-all solution. And they didn't provide scientific testing that shows exactly how much their lenses were blocking, which gets problematic because with my conversation with those experts, it was about having a system that can block different amounts of blue light and enable different frequencies of light depending on the time of the day, because the light outside in nature is very dynamic. And as the sun moves from the east to mid-noon to the west, we get exposed to different amounts of blue and to different color temperatures. And this is very important information for our system. So we realized that we needed a system that is able to mimic that in a certain way.
Yeah.
So at this point, I actually teamed up with optic experts in British Columbia, and we came up with this three lens advanced technology system that is actually able to filter different amounts of blue and to enable different color temperatures depending on the time of the day. And we have our daytime technology that addresses this specific 455 nanometer frequency. It reduces its sharpness and it makes it balanced with the yellow and the green. And this means that when wearing those glasses, oftentimes people report that they're not having eye strain, headaches, and agitation that they used to feel when they are exposed to this junk light all the time. And it also really separates us from other yellow tinted glasses in the market, because I want to bring this up because I think it's very important. And today I see so many people wearing those yellow tinted glasses during the day. And those actually block 100% of the blue at 455 nanometer. And in the process of doing this, they wipe out the blue turquoise at 470, 480 nanometer, which is a very important frequency that our photoreceptors in the eyes are most sensitive to signal to our brain that it's daytime. So what happens when we block this frequency? We start feeling sleepy at the wrong time of the day, and we actually start confusing our circadian clock. So when the sun sets, that's when we come back home, and we have had, assuming that we have watched the sunset or that we have been outside during that time, which I hope people will, because light is information and our nervous system needs this information to know that it's time to wind down. And assuming that that happened and we came back home, most of us are exposed to the second sun from the lights, right? From the artificial light. And this is why we designed the evening glasses, which are specifically designed to mimic the color temperature of a bonfire. And we wanted to mimic this feeling of calmness and winding down that we feel when we are around a fire, yet we still have this energy to cook, dance, and socialize, right? And we wanted people to have something that they could block all of the blue and only the highest frequency green, so that they could start calming down, feeling relaxed, yet they could still have the energy to drive, go to the mall, or run their evening tasks. Okay. And lastly, the last technology is the nighttime technology, which is designed to be worn an hour before bed when you finish all of your evening activities.
I have that
and
one
this
right
blocks, yes.
my glasses are right next to my bedside. So I don't have them all here. But yeah, this is the red one. That's great.
Yes, totally. And as you can see, it's actually okay. I'll talk about the clipping, the technology of clipping. But these glasses, they block all of the blue, all of the green, and they also decrease the brightness by 15 times, which is a very important feature because brightness of light also could shift our sleep in the wrong direction. Okay, so the beauty of this system that you now have, that you won,
yes,
is that you don't need to like switch 3 different frames and carrying them all around, because you could have one base frame and you could seamlessly transition from one lens to another by simply clipping the evening and the nighttime onto the base frame.
Yeah, so this is magnetic, and so the yellow glasses, the daytime ones, they have the orange and the red sort of clips, and so you can alternate putting them on, and it's so convenient, it's so great. So you don't have to have 3 pairs of glasses. It makes so much sense. And I'll just take both of the clips with me to, if I'm sitting on the couch or whatever, I'll just have those sort of with me by my side so I can alternate or, put on whichever ones. And I love the idea that it's daytime. We want to keep these certain frequencies, but we want to block some of those if we're, if we have to look at artificial light, because we do live in a modern world, like I'm staring at a computer. So that's great. And then I love the idea of mimicking the bonfire. And then the red is almost like at night when the fire is burned out and we're just looking at the embers. It's really dim. I'm obsessed with that concept. I think it's so great.
Yes. And like this will enable us to have full control over our light environment, no matter where we are, right? So that we're able to manage the frequencies of light that are entering our eyes and creating our reality and creating our circadian rhythms.
Yeah, so good. Roudy, where can people find more information? Where can they get these incredible glasses? Tell us more where we can learn more and get these.
Yeah, definitely. I do realize that this might be a new topic for so many, and we often need to repeat and to expose ourselves to the information again and again in order to learn a new language and to absorb this. So I want to first invite everyone to check out our free ebook or e-booklet, so to speak. It's called Light, the Key to Mastering Your Sleep and Energy. And it has all the golden nuggets that you need in order to be able to take action today and elevate your light environment to a whole new level of alignment with nature and truly start to master your sleep, have more energy and focus, and become productive. And what I like about this e-booklet is that it's very short and sweet. It's the culmination of 7 years of studying sometimes complex concepts in quantum biology and circadian rhythm, and really making them so easy and so accessible, breaking them into actionable steps that anyone could understand and could take today to feel that transformation. And people could download this ebook. I'm going to share actually a link with you so that they could click on it and download it from there. They could also access it when they go to www.vivarays.com and download it for free. And in relation to the glasses, they could also check out our technologies on our website. And if you have any questions in relation to the technology or in relation to any of the information that I have shared, if you'd like any support or help, or if there's any concept that you haven't understood well and you'd like to discuss, feel free to reach out to us in VivaRays, support@vivarays.com. And we also share a lot of our educational material on Instagram on VivaRays. And to us, VivaRays is more than a product. In vain we build series or we build product if we don't first build humans. And to us, deeply, one of our missions is to build human consciousness and to build humans' understanding about the relationship to life, so that they could use a product that will help them in the journey and on the process. But truly, the main thing for us is building humans and not necessarily building products. Building products comes next to serve humans.
Right. Oh, I love that. It's so great. And I cannot recommend these glasses more. Definitely check out VivaRays.com. I'm going to link everything in the show notes, including your Instagram, so everyone can stay in touch. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And we'll definitely have to have you back. This was awesome. Take care.
Awesome. Pleasure chatting.